Imagine waking up in a jungle that isn't a jungle, where the trees breathe, the ground pulses like muscle, and shadows move even when the wind is still. Now imagine you're not alone. You're surrounded by creatures that look human, but each one towers above you, 15 feet tall, radiating heat, hunger, and curiosity. And here's the catch. They don't want to eat you, at least not in the way you think. This is the story of how one human crashed into their world and found the only way out. If that opening made your pulse quicken, you're in the right place. Go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe for more wild human survival stories from beyond the stars, and share this one with someone who thinks they could handle a planet like this. Trust me, they wouldn't. Now, let's get into it. The crash didn't sound like metal breaking, it sounded like bones snapping. Captain Jin-Ho Park had been through dozens of emergency drills, but nothing prepared him for the feel of an impact that kept going, grinding, screaming, tearing. His ship, the Horizon's Edge, split through the clouds of a violet sky and slammed into something that wasn't quite solid, yet resisted like living muscle. Then, silence. Thick, wet silence. When Jin-Ho opened his eyes, the cockpit was half buried in something pinkish and pulsating. His ears rang. His helmet visor flickered, static crawling across the glass. The air tasted like copper and perfume, sharp, sweet, and heavy. Every breath was an effort. He whispered, "Where the hell am I?" No answer. Only the slow thump, thump, thump of the ground beneath him. He forced the cockpit open. The sound that greeted him wasn't wind. It was breathing. The landscape stretched like a living organism. Vines that twitched, leaves that shimmered with veins of bioluminescence, trees that flexed as though exhaling. Every step he took made the soil quiver, responding to his weight. Then he heard it. Laughter, deep, echoing, melodic laughter that came from above the canopy. Jin-Ho froze. Something enormous moved through the trees. Branches snapped, sending down cascades of glowing dust. The air shimmered with the scent of honey and ozone. He hid behind a ridge of red moss that oozed liquid warmth. When he looked up, he saw her. 15 feet tall, skin glistening in the dim light, hair cascading in hues that shifted between gold and rose. Her eyes, luminous and predatory, scanned the wreckage. She wasn't human, but she looked human. Too human. Beautiful, terrifyingly so. Jin-Ho's mind screamed at him to stay silent, but his suit made a faint ping, a proximity alert. The giant woman turned. For a moment, their eyes met. Her pupils dilated. A slow, curious smile crossed her lips. "Oh," she said softly, voice deep as thunder. "A small one." Her hand reached out, the size of his entire body. Jin-Ho dove to the side, rolling into the undergrowth. He heard her laugh again, delighted. "You run," she said almost teasingly. "They always run." They. That one word chilled him. He crawled between the roots, his heart slamming in his chest. The ground beneath him pulsed faster, like a heartbeat reacting to fear. He switched on his helmet cam, recording. "Survivor log," he whispered. "Unknown biosphere, intelligent life. Extremely large humanoids, possibly hostile, need extraction." But deep down he knew. No one was coming. His ship had gone off-grid hours before the crash. The last transmission was a scream of static swallowed by the void. He was alone. Then, in the distance, more voices. Low, echoing, feminine, laughter again. He couldn't tell if they were angry or amused. It felt like both. He stumbled into a clearing. The trees here were different, spiraling upward like tendons glimmering with translucent light. And in the center, something rose from the ground. A pod, flesh-colored. It opened with a wet hiss, releasing steam. Inside was a body, human-sized, male, or what used to be human. Jin-Ho staggered back. The figure's skin was pale, eyes open but lifeless, expression fixed in bliss, horror, both. His suit sensors screamed. High pheromone concentration, off the charts. He didn't understand, but the air around the body shimmered with invisible heat. That's when he heard the whisper, not in his ears, in his head. Don't fight it. Jin-Ho's pulse spiked. He yanked off his helmet, gasping for air, desperate to clear his mind. But the voice grew louder, smoother. You're not prey, little one. You're new. He fell to his knees, dizzy. The sky shifted colors, purple to crimson, crimson to gold. He saw shapes moving above the tree line, silhouettes of more giants, dozens, maybe hundreds. Watching, he crawled backward until his hands hit metal, a fragment of his ship. Something still hummed inside, a fusion cell, barely functional. He could weaponize it, or overload it. A plan flickered through his head. If he could use the cell to create a pulse, maybe he could buy time, blind them, scramble their senses, make a run for it. The laughter stopped. A voice much closer now murmured, "He's thinking." The jungle fell silent. Then, like a thunderclap, the ground shook. A shadow fell over him, one of the giants bending down, eyes wide with fascination. "You smell afraid," she whispered. "I like that." Jin-Ho's fingers tightened on the fusion cell. He met her gaze, trembling, furious, human. "Yeah?" he hissed. "You'll like what happens next." The fusion cell erupted like a miniature sun. A pulse of white energy swept through the clearing, distorting the air, flattening the vines, and throwing Jin-Ho backward into the glowing underbrush. When he opened his eyes again, everything was still. Too still. The giant woman who had stood over him was on her knees, dazed, eyes flickering like dying embers. The jungle around them quivered, as though the entire planet had been stunned. Jin-Ho staggered to his feet, coughing. His suit was fried, his comms were dead, but his brain, still human, still sharp, was alive with adrenaline. He muttered, "You want to hunt me? Then chase me." He took off running. The landscape writhed around him. Tendrils retracted, trees leaned away. It was like the planet itself was alive, not metaphorically, but literally, a single vast organism. Every movement, every sound echoed back, as if the world itself were listening. He stumbled over a ridge and looked down into a vast valley of light. There, towering structures, grown from living material, not built, but birthed. The architecture pulsed with energy, shaped like colossal rib cages and hearts. And within those structures, shadows moved. Hundreds of giant women, their silhouettes graceful and predatory. Then came the voice, deeper this time, resonating through the very ground. "You shouldn't have done that, little one." The air shimmered. From the center of the valley rose a figure, taller than the others, regal, with eyes like molten silver. Her presence was suffocating, her beauty unnerving. The others bowed as she spoke. "I am Lysara," she said, "matron of the symbiont world. You have trespassed and harmed our kin." Jin-Ho's instinct screamed at him to run, but her words held him like gravity. "I didn't come here to harm anyone," he said. "I crashed. I'm just trying to survive." "Survive?" Lysara tilted her head. "You misunderstand. You are not prey. You are the key. The others before you, they could not endure. Their minds broke. But you resist." She smiled. "That makes you perfect." The ground split open beneath Jin-Ho, revealing a cavern glowing with neural light. Tendrils reached upward, wrapping around his legs. He fought, kicking, tearing free, his breath ragged. "Stay back," he shouted. But Lysara only watched, amused. "Your fear feeds us. Your defiance shapes us. Do you not see? We are not individuals. We are one mind. And now, you are inside it." Jin-Ho's vision blurred. The air hummed. His mind filled with memories that weren't his. Flashes of past men, explorers, soldiers, all who had crashed before him. Each had been absorbed, their consciousness twisted into pleasure and submission, their humanity dissolved into the living network of the planet. And then, the truth struck him. The giant women weren't creatures at all. They were projections, manifestations of the planet's collective mind, using the image of humanity's own desire to control and comfort. They were avatars of temptation and the planet's way of absorbing human will. He whispered, "You lure us here. You feed on us." Lysara's smile widened. "We evolve through you." Something inside Jin-Ho snapped, the survival instinct that makes humans terrifying even in the face of gods. He looked down at the fusion cell, its remaining energy flickering. He had one last pulse left, enough to destroy it, or set it free. "You evolve through us," he said quietly. "Then evolve from this." He slammed the cell into the ground and hit override. The detonation wasn't fire. It was light, pure and violent. It ripped through the neural structures, collapsing the living towers. Lysara screamed, a sound that shook the heavens. For a moment, Jin-Ho saw everything, the vast organism convulsing, tearing apart, the psychic link shattering. Then in silence. When he woke, he was lying on blackened soil. The world around him was dead calm. The sky was clear, no longer crimson. His ship's distress beacon blinked weakly beside him, reactivated by the blast. He whispered, "Still human." Above him, the stars blinked. For the first time since the crash, he felt small, not from fear but from awe. A voice crackled through his helmet, faint, distant. "This is command. Horizon distress signal detected. Captain Park, respond." He smiled weakly, tears mixing with dirt on his face. "I'm here," he whispered, "and you won't believe what I've seen." As rescue lights pierced the atmosphere, the camera feed on his suit recorded the ruins below, and just before it cut to static, one of the blackened tendrils twitched, ever so slightly, and that was how one man's crash turned into humanity's legend. Jin-Ho Park, the captain who stared down a world that wanted to consume him and said no. A planet of living desire. A consciousness that could shape itself to seduce the human mind. And one soldier who reminded it that humanity doesn't bend, it breaks what tries to own it. If you enjoyed this story, hit that like button. It really helps more people discover these wild HFY tales. Subscribe for more stories where humanity refuses to bow to the impossible, and share this one with someone who thinks they've seen it all. Because out there beyond the stars, someone's still telling the story. The man who crashed into the flesh world and walked away human.